Hey, honey.
Yeah, what's up?
Hey, everybody. I'm Fen, and this is Retro Review show where we go through my copious amount of gaming, books, magazines, and other paraphernalia one at a time. And to keep me from rambling, we have Laura.
Hey, everybody. So, to keep us on track, I'm going to ask a list of questions.
All right, go ahead.
So, first question, what are we reviewing today?
Today, we're continuing my horde of Dragon magazines with Dragon Magazine number 193.
My dragon would definitely appreciate you having a horde.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, and I'm going to guess that this one came from Eagle Hill in Presque Isle.
Yep, was basically just buying these $5 a piece when I was going in every time I had a little extra cash to spend over the course of a couple of years. Got myself a good collection of them.
Yeah. Okay, do you want to give us a quick synopsis of the articles?
Okay, so this month's theme is Caverns Deep, so it's all about adventuring in dungeons and the Underdark. So our first article is Advice for Fledgling Dungeon Crawlers. And it's an article about safe dungeon adventuring with tips on suggested equipment to have, to use, dungeon environments such as like air, the construction, traffic, lighting, traps, useful spells for going into dungeons, and how to deal with monsters in a way other than just combat. So, like, there's some monsters you might come across that are just a pest that you can just give them a little food and they'll just leave you alone. So,
Don't have to kill everything.
exactly. The next article is Living Statues and Stone Men. It's 3 new golems. They're all Underdark themed, such as the Brain Golem, the Hammer Golem, which is a giant stone dwarf, and the Spiderstone Obsidian Golems, which are like dark elves with 6 arms, giant statues.
It's a spider. Why doesn't it have 8?
Because it's also got
2 legs?
yeah, it's got 8 limbs.
That makes sense.
Yeah. The next article is Castles Revisited. Old school. This is for original Dungeons and Dragons. Some notes on designing a castle with room sizes, descriptions, design notes. Also notes on what's needed to breach a castle wall in a siege. I think that was. I like the idea of like having the whole thing like siege combat notes that was presented in that. Next one is a short story called Brainerd's Last Ballad. So you have basically a Jaskier type bard who is classically trained, knows everything, but I think a lot of people that listen to this bard and the story Brainerd's music would definitely agree with Geralt's statement of the whole thing. It's like getting a pie and finding it has no filling, because he's got no emotional connection to his music. Mm-hmm. Like, he's brilliantly trained musician, but just the music, it's heartless. He keeps getting told this over and over again in the beginning of the story, but he ends up going and gets into an epic battle, fighting alongside his friends, and when the battle's all done, he's one of the last survivors, and he's putting everybody onto the funeral pyre and doing the last rites, and he just starts singing from his heart, and he actually plays the most beautiful song he's ever done, and he actually gives up his music. He throws his harp box onto the funeral pyre and picks up his best friend's sword, and he just laid to rest, and he's like, I'm better at this.
Yeah, that sounds actually really good.
It's a really touching story. The Druid Gets a Life is the next article. It's how druids can benefit a fantasy society by using their magic to mimic 20th century farming. Talks about. It also goes into some new spells for an agricultural based druid. One of those is fertility. It's level 1, can increase the crop yield by 5% per level of the caster, or can help get a female pregnant. Like, it's basically, you cast that on that. If she fails her save, she will get pregnant. Next, so that was interesting. Insect ward. It's how to set up It sets up a magical barrier that can keep out pests for 1 month per level of the caster. So if you're like a third level druid, and you set up all these barriers, you can keep the insects out of a place for 3 months.
Yeah, that'd be super useful.
That'd be super useful. Next article is the Game Wizards column. This month is previews for the 1993 TSR trading card set. They never should have tried to go into the trading card business. Like, yeah, it never really went over. Like, anytime TSR did anything with cards, either the trading cards or their own card game they came out with, same time Magic came out, Spelljammer, that was just...
It just didn't work.
It just didn't work. Spelljammer was just too complex of a game, and even I played the Star Wars CCG, which that thing was basically like super complex. The Spelljammer, the Spellfire cards were just like, nobody ever wanted them. You could find those things on discount everywhere. Everywhere. Bookstores, gaming stores, just take the stuff and walk out of the store. We don't care. Next article is the forum, which is letters column. People have written in to help. Basically, players would write in, giving their suggestion, feedback, and thoughts on different stuff, and they publish it as a little, like, players helping players. This month they were talking about min-max players in parties in D&D, which is basically where somebody builds their character to just be like, I do the spells, and my spells are just, I can blast spells through everything. Another player's like, I built the super tank guy, I take all the damage for everybody else, so nobody else can take damage. And you just maximize your character for its role in the party, and you create these super, like, SWAT team D&D parties.
Where, like, everyone has their
specialization, but everyone has maxed out their ability in the specialization. Like, there's not... And it's usually, like, hack and slash role-playing where you're focused more on combat than you are the actual, like, storylines.
That sounds boring.
So one of the things they actually suggested was to try more structured story games, like the Star Wars RPG, or more heavily role-played focused settings for D&D, like Dark Sun. Another is to do alternate EX experience points based on the challenge rather than the flat numbers the rules say. So if they had an easy fight, oh yeah, easy fight, everybody gets 100 experience points. It's like, what? But we fought this. Like, yeah, but it was a total, like, it only took you one round. You know, you killed all these things. Here's your little token EXP. Okay? When you actually got a huge challenge, then I'll be like, ooh, I'll actually hand out a bunch. Which, that actually became something for 5th edition where they started doing the milestone EXPs. Where it's like, you'd have a point in the story of the campaign where, like, you guys have done enough. I feel it's time for you guys to gain a level. You've got the experience to go to a level. Also, one of the things they said was not to do the money haul treasure aspects. Like the Let's Make a Deal TV show was hosted by Money Hall. And it was always this whole thing of like, oh, well, you can take what's in the box, or you can take what's behind the door. Oh, I'll take what's behind the door. Oh, it's a brand new car. Well, you could keep this brand new car, or you could try to pick one of these other doors. There's like an all-expense Caribbean cruise behind one of these. And it was just, treasure being handed out, like magical items just all the time. One of the things that they said was just try to plan out the treasure, to try to keep it in track with like the amount of like wealth. Say a 5th level party of adventurers should have this much money.
Yeah.
Don't give them more money than that. Don't give them stuff worth more than this, which was actually one of the structures they put into 3rd edition adventure designs. Next article is a 1-page article about events going on at Gen Con, basically a little blurb of Hey, at Gen Con this year, we've got this going on and this going on. And
So if you want to read about the history of Gen Con.
it would be interesting. Although it just makes me keep going, oh man, I have not gotten to a Gen Con yet.
I'm sure you'll get there one of these days.
I don't know if it's Gen Con or Dragon Con, which is in Georgia, but it's possibly both. I think they do a Star Wars CCG tournament at those every year. So I'm kind of like, I'd like to go to Gen Con to go play some Star Wars. Alright, next up, Sage Advice is the FAQ column, where basically people would write in their rules questions, and they pick a bunch based on the same type of theme and answer them. You know, this is the days before internet. You could just email, or you could just call 800 numbers to get advice. I had to write a letter in to actually ask and get your rules question answered.
That'd be a bummer if it was like an obscure question and it didn't get answered. You would never know.
Yeah, it would. So this one's all talking about how the dex-based defense, because if you have a very dexterous, nimble character, you're harder to hit, and how that interacts with cover. And they're all like, no, dex bonus doesn't stack with cover, because when you're diving behind cover, you're not moving around. You're hunkered behind a barrier that's trying to prevent you from taking damage.
It is kind of the opposite.
So they're like, no.
You can't do both.
There's also talking about the optional rule for 2nd edition called hovering at death's door, which is if you fell below 0 or below hit points, you couldn't really do all that much. Like you could move at like half your speed. You couldn't really cast spells. You couldn't really fight because you just almost died and then were healed back. So you're massively injured. And I feel like that's a rule that a lot of 5th edition players need to have brought back, because it's the whole thing of, it's assumed in the rules of like, oh, you were dying, now you're at 1 hit point, you're back at full power and can stand up and fight. And I'm like, no man, you get dropped down, everybody's got to like protect you to help you get the heck out of there. You're up and functional, just able to move.
It does make sense that you need like a recovery period.
Oh yeah. Next article is the Dragon's Bestiary, which is a monthly column of new monsters in the Dragon magazines. This month is Outer Planes Aliens. The giant nautilus, basically a shelled squid from prehistory, is in here. There's abyss ants, ants that live in hell, and the incarnates, beings of pure energy that embody the aspects of good and evil, as in like the 7 heavenly virtues and 7 deadly sins, which can possess a powerful being that shares an aspect with it. So you have like these, like conscious beings of pure light that are all like, either really good virtue, they're all about this good, doing good, or all about doing evil. So I'm like, that's pretty cool.
It is pretty cool.
Alright, Through the Looking Glass is, old history of D&D minis and other gaming minis. You had to start somewhere with the sculpts, and it's only gotten better over the years as more people have gotten into sculpting 1-inch tall figurines. But, there was some just really bad looking dwarfs in this issue. They're like 50% face. Like their heads go from like the top of their head all the way down to like their waist. And then they got their arms and legs sticking out. And I'm like, how is this a dwarf? This does not look right. Why are you going to print? They were really creepy looking. I'm going to pop the picture up here on the screen so everybody can see.
People needed to study like dwarf anatomy.
That was how we all spoiled nowadays with our 3D printers and being able to go online and find sculpts for just about anything that have been created with computer animation techniques and all that digital art. Back in the day, you just had a lump of clay and your sculpting tools, and proportions came out wrong. You either started over again or hoped your boss would be like, it's good enough. But those dwarves, definitely somebody. Who the heck said that was good enough? All right. That's it for this issue.
Okay, which of these articles are you planning to keep?
Definitely the bestiarity, the spells from the druid gets a life, and the living statues. The advice for fledgling dungeon crawlers. I want to start working on my. It's my version of a fantastical location slash. Like just a. Yeah, it's like the fantastical location books that I had reviewed. I want to do Academe. It was Rich's dad created it. He gave me permission a long time ago to develop it if I ever wanted to. It's an adventurer school. I really want to start working on that as like an intro level, like first level D&D adventure or other role playing games. Just like your starting hero who's like, I want to learn how to be an adventurer. It's like you should go to Academe to learn adventuring.
So this would basically be a book for a new D&D player.
For new D&D players, or for a DM that wants to like have some, or a new DM to just be like entry level adventures. And
Yeah,
also
that's really cool.
A cool, adventuring school that you can just drop into your campaign world somewhere and be like, oh yeah, you guys got contacts and NPCs you can interact with and stuff like that. So
Cool. Okay, well, that's all my questions.
If somebody wants to share a creepy mini from way back in the day that you actually gotta like, just leave me a link down in the comment section down below for some creepy minis, and we'll see you next time.
Okay, bye everybody.
Peace.
Hey everybody, thanks for staying till the end of the episode. Remember to like, share, subscribe. Follow us on Facebook at Board Barista Productions. And if you want to support us, Patreon link at the bottom.